I have to keep the pen moving. And it's also giving me the opportunity to learn myself, find out who I am. Because when we write, man, you got to sit and go through the emotions and be vulnerable about it. Whether it's a fun song or sad or, got some type of depth or not. These are still relatively your personality, pushing through. And so a lot of these records are right, man. A lot of stuff I probably would never express or even known about myself if it wasn't for an instrumental behind it.
At the 2026 Grammys, Kendrick Lamar's GNX won the Grammy for Best Rap Album, with Lamar leading all artists at 9 nominations overall. On paper, this was coronation season. Institutions, peers, and voters all converging to affirm Lamar as the era's defining rapper. GNX understands that context and writes directly into it. It is not just another release. It's the centerpiece of a moment where Kendrick is, statistically and symbolically, the most validated rapper in the field, and the album moves like it knows that reputation is both armor and evidence. Rather than play like closure, GNX arrives as Lamar's structured response to the narratives that Family Matters, push-ups, and tailor-made freestyle help circulate, that he's trapped in bad deals, propped up as an industry darling, hiding behind moral performance, brittle about status, and privately unstable. The album doesn't function as a fact-check sheet or a linear rebuttal. Instead, it stages an alternative version of events and leaves listeners to decide whether it clarifies or evades or quietly confirms the elements of the criticism. Its argument is artistic before it is literal. If you want to know who I am, follow the design. The frame is symbolic from the jump. Named after the Buick GNX, the album leans into Lamar's personal mythology, 1987 birth year, family lore, West Coast car culture. The cover and performances keep returning to that specific machine, a limited run vehicle whose value depends on documented provenance and intact paperwork. In a feud obsessed with narratives, cease and desists, AI voices, allegations, and unverifiable leaks, anchoring the project in an object associated with traceability and title feels deliberate. It doesn't hammer home a singular metaphor, but it sketches how Lamar wants to be seen at this stage, as someone whose lineage is certified, whose work and name are on the document. That self-portrait extends the spiritual and ethical preoccupations of Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers: faith, guilt, harm, responsibility, ego, and lineage. This continuity cuts two ways. One reading says, this isn't branding, it's compulsion. He's still turning over the same wounds in public, which undermines the idea that his moral posture is purely opportunistic. The other reading says, precisely because those themes have become his reliable mode, their repetition in the shadow of allegations feel like performance. A great writer returning to a profitable register, while the off-record mess is still left largely off the page. GNX refuses to resolve that tension. It banks on the archive, the run of albums, the consistency of voice, being persuasive enough to function as character witness. The handling of day-free paternity and industry puppet accusations follows the same logic of implication over paperwork. Drake's disses leaned heavily on rumors about Lamar's contract in Inner Circle, implying exploitation and compromised autonomy. On GNX, Kendrick proves that he is a master of subtext. He gives the casual listener enough to follow the surface of the story, but for anyone willing to study the feud, the symbols, and the timing, the album opens into something much deeper. You see, subtext is what a writer communicates without saying it directly. Authors use it to create tension, hide motive, reveal character, and trust that the audience can read between the lines. It turns a story from information into interpretation, because the real meaning is not only in what is said, but in what is being avoided. GNX arrives via PG Lang and Interscope, with Lamar and Day Free visibly credited as co-architects. The Heart Part 6 folds into their partnership through a longer story of black hippies, stalled possibilities, and Lamar's own choices. The track's relaxed swing, slightly behind beat phrasing, and conversational bar breaks play against the image of a man cornered. Kendrick raps like someone narrating his file instead of defending it. None of that disproves a specific contractual claim that Drake makes, but it flips the framing. Instead of a muzzled asset, Kendrick positions himself as an auteur and executive. Skeptics can call it narrative management, but supporters will see a coherent through line from TDE flagship to PG Lane co-founder. Gloria is one of the clearest examples of how GNX prefers misdirection by craft over literal disclosure. It moves like a fraught love song, a warm looped chord progression, slightly detuned at the edges, drums that never fully settle on the grid, and a hook that leans on the second person address. Lamar packs the verses with the textures of intimacy, late night calls, shared burdens, betrayal, devotion, and for most of the runtime, it is easy to map those lines onto Whitney Alford and the tabloid rumor that Drake attempted to narrate. Only in the final turn does the subject reveal itself to be his pen. That twist operates on multiple levels. It recenters authorship as his deepest, messiest relationship, reclaiming the story from gossip. The elegance of the reveal doesn't erase the fact that he steered tension toward the metaphor instead of confession. Whether that feels like integrity or evasion depends on what you came looking for. Man at the Garden is less evasive and more destabilizing. Over a spare, slightly echoing beat that leaves his voice exposed, Lamar returns again and again to the claim that he deserves it all. Awards, wealth, status, reverence. The cadence tightens around those lines.
Man in the Garden, I mean every word on that motherfucker, man. That's probably the easiest record to write. You know? And I figured out who I am in this present moment, you know?
I deserve it all. Like mines and less enemies. Stock investments, more entities. I deserve it all. VVS's white diamonds, GNX with the seat back reclining. Bitch, I deserve it all.
He crowds syllables into the bar, nudging the rhyme onto the downbeat as if to nail each assertion in place. It is one of the few moments where he matches the bluntness of Drake. Here, Lamar does not shy away from wanting supremacy. Framed against years of anti-industry rhetoric and pseudo-reluctant coronations, the song can scan as overdue honesty about an all-time great's ego, or as confirmation that the hunger and jealousy Drake poked at is very real. Lamar doesn't treat institutional validation as contamination. He treats it as a byproduct of risk and labor. Not sin, but citation. GNX as an album lets that friction sit. Is this self-awareness, or is it the slickest possible way of doubling down?
Put my homes on the beachfront. Flying private, what you eat for lunch. I deserve it all. The respect and the accolades. Lamping on the island, watching Castaway. I deserve it all.
The repeated phrase, I deserve it all, sounds arrogant on the surface, but the surrounding details complicated. He's not only saying, I want fame, he is saying, after what I've survived, witnessed, carried, and paid for, my reward is not excessive, it is earned. The first claim is about symbolic payment, respect, and awards. Kendrick is not pretending to be above validation here. That matters. He is admitting that he wants the trophies, the reverence, the institutional recognition. For an artist often framed as humble, moral, or anti-industry, this is unusually direct. He is saying the crown does not embarrass him. Then the island image adds loneliness. Watching Castaway while glamping on an island is a strange flex because Castaway is not really about luxury. It is about isolation, survival, and being separated from the world. So the line turns wealth into exile. He may be somewhere beautiful, but the reference underneath is about abandonment. Success has given him distance, not necessarily peace. The line about good men who die changes the emotional register. Suddenly the I becomes bigger than Kendrick. His deserving is tied to the people who did not make it. The reward becomes almost ancestral and communal. He is carrying the names of the dead into rooms they never got to enter. That makes the ego feel less private. He's not just asking for his own flowers. He is asking for the flowers on the behalf of everyone he lost along the way.
Fast forward to GNX, I felt it was just a perfect time because not only the energy was lost, but it was the energy that was bubbling inside of me as well. I wanted to go back to the forefront of just the bite and just the grit of rap, just all raps and hard-ass beats. And that's like the basics for me. I thought about, damn, what I used to like when I was a kid.
The album's introduction, Whacked Out Murals, adds a layer of vulnerability that complicates both hero and hater narratives. Over a beat that keeps threatening to open up but never fully does, a stuttering kick, a smeared packet of keys, a hesitant bass line, Lamar catalogs the way his public image has been vandalized, literally and figuratively. He notes defaced murals, think pieces, the emergence of a vocal block that is comfortable disliking him. For much of his career, even casual non-fans seem reluctant to position themselves directly against Kendrick Lamar as an idea. His virtuosity functioned as consensus. Post-beef, the consensus is gone, and Whacked Out Murals doesn't pretend otherwise. It sits in the discomfort of being polarizing now, suggesting a turning point where artistic stature is no longer a guarantee for a soft-focused treatment. Reincarnated offers one of the album's most pointed craft arguments. Where Drake's tailor-made freestyle used AI for Tupac and Snoop as externalized accusers, Lamar responds with a track that samples Tupac's Made Niggas and builds a full performance around inhabiting that lineage. He flattens his delivery into Tupac's clipped emphasis, using certain consonants, and mirrors a familiar cadence without lapsing into impression, and lets the beat breathe in a way that recalls 90s West Coast menace with more contemporary maximalism. Framed as past life regression, the song can be heard as a principled reclamation, treating Tupac not as bait, but as a bloodline, or as its own myth-flattening move. Again, GNX isn't interested in forcing the reading. It demonstrates the difference between borrowing a voice and inserting your place in its continuum, then leave the ethical math to the listener. One of GNX's most consequential decisions, again, is what it withholds. None of the big anti-Drake records, Euphoria, Meet the Grams, or Not Like Us, appear on the album. Despite the cultural and commercial gravity, their absence does several things at once. It allows the album to avoid collapsing into a disc compilation, preserving its shape as a self-contained narrative. It signals a kind of confidence that the album doesn't need its loudest moments to stand as canon. It also reads unavoidably as strategy. Lamar benefits from the perception of having won the battle while presenting his official Grammy-facing body of work as a measured, reflective, awards-ready album. The feud is allowed to loom like negative space around the record. GNX enjoys the shadow without formally inscribing it. Taken together, these choices make GNX feel less like a verdict than a case file. It advances Kendrick's preferred self-portrait, rooted in providence, spiritual wrestling, executive control, earned acclaim, at the exact moment elite institutions are endorsing that image at scale. Simultaneously, some of its boldest tracks foreground the pride, sensitivity, and self-mythologizing that critics latch onto when they argue Drake's attacks weren't entirely fabricated in spirit. Man at the Garden doesn't so much disprove charges of ego as insist that ego is justified. Whacked Out Murals acknowledges the bruises to his sainthood costume. Gloria and Reincarnated flex how easily he can convert scandal into a lineage or a motif. The album keeps inviting double vision, whether GNX lands as a principled affirmation that reinforces Lamar's integrity or an exceptionally well-made narrative intervention that leaves key doubts unresolved, depends less on the track list and more on the listener's priors. That's part of its importance. It refuses the easy victory lap or the full mea culpa and instead demonstrates how a modern rap album can operate as both art and counter-argument, thick with symbolism, calibrated with intention, bent around public discourse without being wholly consumed by it. It doesn't settle the Drake versus Kendrick debate either. It shows how Kendrick Lamar wants his side of the story to live, in the drums, in the samples, in structures, in carefully chosen absences, and then it hands the final judgment back to everyone listening.
You have to believe in yourself and have to know that it's only one you. You're an amazing individual, unique. You're a miracle. I wake up every day and I'm like, this is crazy. Not crazy from a standpoint of being a celebrity, crazy just life. It's just wild. When you really sit down and just think about it and just bug out on some wild it's wild. And to know that you are in this existence and in this world as one individual, it's only you, you have to know that you got to carry that authentic nature of allowing yourself to say, this is who I am, this is how people are going to see me, and also going to respect me, and it's going to inspire people to have truth. Because when everyone's authentic, what comes out of that is true love. There's no boundaries. We don't have any courtship on judgment. We don't have any perception of being able to ridicule anyone because you showing up as your true self, I'm showing up as my true self. And carrying that nature, it take you places.